I am Rachel from 7 and All, and today I'm going to be talking about our highlights and our lowlights, our big hits and misses from the past homeschool year of 2021 through 2022. We are still, of course, in the midst of our second semester, but I wanted to be able to go over our hits and misses before I start sharing with you our new curriculum picks for the next school year. Here, I am a second generation homeschooler. I am raising my boys speaking both Spanish and English, and I'm still very involved in the day-to-day with my youngest sisters who are still being homeschooled, my two youngest sisters. Definitely, if you're new to this channel, I would love for you to click that subscribe button down below, leave me a comment, tell me what you like in this video, tell me what you want to see more of. But I'm going to get started, and I'm going to structure this video into 3 parts. I'm going to address each of the 3 grades that we're doing right now, and we'll start with the oldest. So we'll start with 10th grade, then we'll go to 5th grade, and then we will go to preschool. And I'm not going to be covering every single piece of curriculum or every subject that we're doing. I'm just going to be kind of tackling what has been one of the big wins, like one or a couple of the big wins from this year, and what's been one of the big, pretty much fails or total flops of the year. And spoiler alert, it just might be possible that sunlight happens to be one of our biggest wins and one of our biggest flops within the same year. Keep watching to find out why. All right, 10th grade, let's start with high school. I'm always gonna wanna be on here telling you, do not be afraid of homeschooling high school. Our family is currently homeschooling our 7th high schooler. It's going absolutely fantastic. For our 10th grader, sunlight was the major win of her year. In talking to her, she says when she does sunlight, she doesn't even feel like it's schoolwork. She just feels like she has permission to lay in bed and read for a couple of hours, and she absolutely loves it. She's learning, thriving, doing absolutely fantastic. She is doing the American history, I think it's called Sunlight 100 now, the HBL. We do have an older version of it. Probably their newer version is even better. So highly recommending that for a very self-motivated learner who loves to read. Other big wins for her this year were her math. She started off, if you look at my 10th grade video, she started off doing geometry this year with Life of Fred. She finished that and has since moved on to trigonometry with Life of Fred. And she's very independent at this stage. She does 2 subjects with my mom first thing every morning. She does trigonometry with my mom, and then she does her chemistry with my mom. And I have a video dedicated to her chemistry program. She does this and chemistry with mom, and then this is the Fred's Home Companion trigonometry. This she does by herself, and this is basically extra problems to go along with this text. And I can show you a little bit about it. It's very quirky and different for most trigonometry books, but there is a lot of math in here, and trigonometry can scare a lot of parents. It does not scare my mom. Basically, sometimes I feel like the whole point of homeschooling us is just so that we can get to the higher math and she can start having a lot of fun. I'm kind of calling her out right now, but it's just my suspicion. I think she enjoys other parts of it, but if you like math, and you like really high math, homeschooling a ton of kids is a good way to get to do a lot of math, probably more than the average amount of math that you would do in a normal lifetime. Another big highlight for her has been her Chinese. She is absolutely thriving in learning Mandarin Chinese as her high school foreign language. She does do some of that with me, but not all of it is something she has to do with me, because if she had to wait on me, she probably wouldn't make very good progress. So we do have things she does independently, like Rosetta Stone, listening to her Learning Chinese podcast, and just practicing writing her characters and working through a workbook, Chinese grammar workbook I got her. So she does do quite a bit independently, but then what we do together is we read through I believe it's a 700 character level storybook that I got her that's meant specifically for Chinese learners, kind of once you're getting past that basic level, but you also can't really read fluently yet because you only know about 600-700 characters. We're reading through that together, and that is a little bit, that's pushing her, that's a little more challenging for her, so that's what we do together. We talk about it, we learn the new characters together. Those have all been fantastic highlights. The Good and the Beautiful Language Arts curriculum was also a big highlight for her. She had a lot of fun with it. She's really enjoyed that. On the flip side, the big fail for her is kind of the other side of language arts. What we started off with right at the beginning and we probably dropped it within a month, was writing with skill. Our family has been homeschooling close to 3 decades now. And you can still make total mistakes, and then you look back and you're like, yeah, that was probably a dumb plan that we made. Oh well, you move on. It's homeschool. You can drop, change, and adjust as needed. We had planned to have Writing with Skill be her writing language arts curriculum for this coming year. And if you look back at some of my old videos, you will see that. But we dropped it after about a month because, one, she hated it. Number 2, we realized why she hated it. She is a fantastic writer. She writes very fluently. She writes with solid arguments. I would put her up against any college student. I used to grade papers for senior classes. I was a professor's assistant at one time in my life. Her papers are easily just as good as those papers were back when I had that job. So I'm not at all worried about her being able to write with skill because she already does. And there is definitely a place for very structured writing curriculums along the Writing with Skill, that whole program, or IEW. These very structured writing curriculums are very useful for many kids. However, something that you will notice if you have a child who is a natural writer, an intuitive writer, someone who can just put all the pieces of a paper together in their mind, those curriculums are very frustrating and annoying. And you're like, no, I can do better than the curriculum is telling me to do because it feels like it's suffocating me into this little plan. I also would not have liked any of those structured writing curriculums like Writing with Skill, and she has a lot of my same tendencies. So that's just something to think about. Remember who your kid is before you make a plan. If you have a kid who really needs to learn to write with skill and to learn to write structured papers, to follow a system until they reach mastery and until they can start going off on their own, then yes, Writing with Skill could be a great program to do that, or IEW could be a great program to get them to that level. If they're already at that level, stop frustrating them by just kind of forcing these kind of programs onto them because it's not going to go that well. Now the 5th grader. For her, I'm going to start with our big fail of the year because I was just talking about fails, so might as well start with a fail. We decided that we wanted to try sunlight with her this year. And our family has long been a sunlight family. My mom owns many of the sunlight cores and has used them many, many times with all of her kids. With my youngest sister, she has not yet been able to catch up to a level of doing sunlight. She has some big gaps, which are, 1, gaps in background knowledge. Literature-based learning only is going to work well when you have enough background knowledge to understand the literature. People who don't have enough just general background knowledge will get so caught up in not understanding a lot of the vocabulary, not understanding the scene, what's happening at this point in history, that it's really hard to just learn in that sunlight style from pure literature-based learning. So because we were battling against lack of background knowledge and lack of vocabulary and also more limited reading comprehension, which is also related to lack of background knowledge, we hadn't tried sunlight yet, but this year we decided, okay, let's try. Maybe she's there. Maybe she's there yet. And we tried it. And this one we actually lasted a few months with, but it was a struggle and it was a battle of, we can't just read through a chapter of Strawberry Girl. We have to be constantly on every page, defining multiple words, drawing pictures on the board of what this kind of tool is because she doesn't have the background knowledge to picture what this tool is or where this place is in the world. The books were just too high. There was too much going on. Sunlight does traditionally choose pretty challenging books. We like it for that. But for her, it wasn't working. And it's very important to remember, you homeschool the kid that you have. You don't homeschool the philosophy. We love literature-based learning. It is not, purely literature-based learning is not a good fit when you're battling with reading comprehension issues, with trying to fill many, many gaps in background knowledge. So we dropped Sunlight. We dropped Sunlight. That was too much. There was too much going on with the reading books. They were just too hard for her at this stage. Maybe we can come back to it in another 2 years or so. We'll see. But we're just gonna have to wait and see how that goes, how far she can progress with filling in the background knowledge, with building vocabulary. And we're working on this. We're gonna keep working, but we're not using Sunlight. We stopped using Sunlight quite a while ago now, and we moved on to something else. Now I'll talk about some of the highlights from 5th grade. One big win is anatomy. Apologia, Young Explorers Anatomy is what we are using. And I haven't done a video specific to that one, so if you would like to see it, go ahead and let me know. If you watched one of my recent Day in the Life videos, you saw us making a model of a heart out of marshmallows and graham crackers as part of our Apologia Anatomy. She is doing well with that. My mom is moving very slowly through the book in teaching it, going back over concepts, really repeating a lot. She's also incorporating some testing, which Apologia Anatomy doesn't include tests on its own, but she's finding ways to go ahead and test the information afterwards, because that is one of our struggles. Is to her, to the 5th grader, she feels like she understands it and she feels like she knows the information. But when you try to ask her to tell it back to you or use the information in a different way, that can be more of a struggle. So testing is actually a really great tool for her, not as a punishment tool or as a just, to put some kind of grade letter on it. It's a tool for her to understand, oh wait, I thought I knew this information, but I don't actually know this information. So it is a very helpful tool. Don't totally throw away testing, because for some kids it can be very helpful for them as part of their learning process of knowing what they know and knowing what they don't know. But science is something that she really has a lot of fun with learning anatomy. And our next highlight is something that is pretty new to us, but it's been going very well so far. And after we dropped Sunlight, we didn't do anything for a little while because we were trying to figure out what to do for history. Then we landed on Story of the World, and she is doing Story of the World Volume 1, and they've gotten through about 8 to 9 lessons at the time when I'm filming this video. This video probably won't be out for like a month or a couple weeks, so they'll be farther along by then. But so far, my mom has said this is going much better when you have the Story of the World book, you have the review questions that she can write down answers to, you have the activity sheets, worksheets, you can throw in an extra book that we can pull from our Sunlight library. We can throw in some extra books, picture books or encyclopedia kind of books directly on that topic. So we're pulling in books just from our personal homeschool library, whatever we have. We can watch a video on it, and then at the end we can take a test. So it's not just reading a book and doing some math work, and it's not doing kind of multiple different things at the same time the way that Sunlight does, because they are connected, but you're reading multiple books it can be hard to connect when you don't have enough background knowledge. So the more focusing in on one thing at a time and then having multiple ways to practice it and a test at the end is working much better for her, and my mom feels like they are finally making progress with history through this. So that is a big win. Next, preschool. I talk about preschool a lot. It is my season, and it's a season that I am fully embracing right now. And I will say I don't really have any total fails to share from this, because in preschool, nothing is really a fail, because your goal isn't like, oh, I'm trying to learn to read, or I'm trying to learn history, or I'm trying to learn to write papers. It's just about building that love for learning. It's about building good habits, building basic life skills and relational skills, building that relationship between parent and child, learning conversation, learning. It's just a beautiful growing time. And yes, not every single thing is beautiful. And yes, we have 3-year-old temper tantrums just like anyone else. But we do have a lot of fun with preschool. I'm going to share some of my favorite things, the things that have worked very well this year. Preschool math at home. I do highly recommend this for preschool math. I know a lot of people, I've read a lot of reviews, people read this and say, oh, this is so easy for my preschooler. maybe your preschooler is like super smart and a math genius, because to me, this is not easy at all for a preschooler. And my preschooler is maybe young, maybe he's just not a math genius, but to me, this is a lot of really in-depth thinking. I've actually known some first and second graders because I've done a lot of tutoring and after school teaching and so on in my past, that some of these concepts they definitely do not grasp. We have concepts like games like this, like, you know, whatever. Tell me how many fingers, just like look and tell me how many fingers I have up, and you have to work up to a point where they look without counting and know how many fingers you have up. That's hard for a lot of preschoolers, but also tell me how many fingers I have down. And using the reasoning of knowing, oh, well, we have 10 fingers, she's missing 2 fingers, because you're not showing them like this, you're showing them like this. She has 8 fingers up, so we must be missing 2 fingers. If we add in 2 fingers, then it will be 10. Or putting counters on a 10 frame and being able to just look at it and know, oh, there's 7. So how many more would we need to fill in the 10 frame? We would need 3 more. To me, those are deep concepts for a preschooler. Knowing, okay, if I have this many fish in this pond, but there's less fish in this pond, how many more would I need to add to make the 2 ponds equal? Like, maybe other people are just dealing with math geniuses, or they've just been drilling math this whole time with their preschoolers, but to me, that is a very challenging and deep preschool math activity that really requires deep number sense. I've been impressed with that. We've been working through it slowly and just really nailing in on that number sense. He's shown a lot more interest in numbers recently and in writing numbers. I'll talk about that in a minute. Another big win from our year is purely preschool, or as we are using it, puramente preescolar, the Spanish edition of the preschool curriculum I created starting in March last year. So I am showing you just the Spanish lesson plans right here, but this exists fully in English. I know a lot of families who have used this past year. If you've been using purely preschool or puramente preescolar, give me a shout out in the comments. Let me know how you have enjoyed it. But what this curriculum consists of is lists, basically activity ideas. We also have learning statements with real pictures on them for the most part that your child gets to memorize and practice, and their conversation starters throughout your week. And there's also a couple of activity pages, although it's not primarily activity page based. And I realize that this is in Spanish and most of my audience is not Spanish speaking, but why this has been such a big win is because my son has exploded in his ability to speak Spanish in the past year, which probably part of that is just age. This has been the year that he's been 3 years old. So there's been an explosion in vocabulary and in just willingness and interest in talking and communicating. But also, for me, this has been so helpful with growing in my confidence as a bilingual homeschooler, because I'm not a great Spanish speaker. But having the plan, having the vocabulary right here to help me lead, to give me the basics that I need to lead an activity in Spanish instead of just reverting to my native language English has helped a lot, I think. And having an already planned that, oh, we can do La Lechuza for our song, we can do these 2 Spanish books. I don't need to be searching every time, what am I gonna do in any way. I can just take my lesson, easily go with it. We have our murciélagos, our bats lesson here. We have our bats cards. I pretty much, things that I cut out and used for an activity, I saved it because I'm gonna use this with my next son as well. But yeah, this has been a huge win, and I'm so excited with how much his Spanish has exploded in the past year with using this, with having the regular Spanish books, regular Spanish songs, having our Spanish cards throughout every day. It's been fantastic. Our last big win was kind of a surprise to me. It is the morning binder, and this is from Gentle and Classical Press. This is their preschool binder, and it does have this page, which I just drew. This was part of his toddler learning binder I had made him. But I don't know what it is, if it's the time of day when we do it, if it's the fact that he gets to use a marker, but he loves this, and he usually does way more pages than I expected that he would want to do. And we will soon be, I'll be printing out the kindergarten level binder and doing that, because if you find something that works really well, you just keep using it. But this is from Gentle Classical Press. I believe you can get it alone or as part of their preschool bundle. So what you do is, okay, if we're learning about the letter K this week, you can build the letter K on this page with Legos or whatever you want to. Trace it here, you find it here. All their letter pages are like that. They have other pages. We were doing the color pages earlier in the year. Then they did shapes pages. After the shapes pages, these are what he has really loved, the number pages. For one, you fill in one circle, you do this matching, you trace it. So there are days when he wants to do like 7 of these number pages. Fill in 3 circles, match all the lines. Then there's pages here for doing 10 frame activities. This is what he's been super into lately, is count and write, which I never really taught him to write the numbers yet. I'm big into preschool, but I'm not so much big into like early numbers and letters. But apparently he can actually write a lot of the numbers, and so that was a little bit of a surprise. And this is addition. It's obviously very easy because it's not numbers and you can just count the physical objects to add. But that was his first, he was like, I want to do this page. And so I'm like, okay, well, here's how you add. And then he just did it, and he's done them many, many times. This is a fish pond activity that I was talking about from the Preschool Math at Home. But yeah, this binder has been a huge win. I'll be doing the next level of it soon, which is a little bit more advanced for him, because I think he will have done these pages quite a few times by pretty soon. So we need the next one.